Although many can forgive insults, no one has ever forgiven contempt. Benjamin Franklin. It was a beautiful winter day in Austin, Texas. The temperature reached 67 degrees Fahrenheit, and there was a light breeze from the west. The evening promised to be even more impressive. A full moon and temperatures near 50 degrees at 8:00 p.m. created a perfect forecast. To top it all off, Florida-Georgia Line was performing at the Moody Center concert, and Henry Can had 2 front-row tickets to the show for him and his wife, Melanie. It was supposed to be a week-early Valentine's Day celebration for the 33-year-old couple, who had been married for almost 5 years. The only problem was that it wasn't warm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. In fact, it was about 10 degrees there. There was a foot of snow on the ground, and another 10 inches were expected before the precipitation stopped. What does this have to do with Henry, Melanie, and dating Tyler Hubbard, Brian Kelly, and the rest of the FGL crew? Good question. Henry had been called at the last minute to Sioux Falls the day before to deal with a major computer system glitch at Sanford Health Biomedical Center. Their neonatal unit was participating in a national research project when the problem arose. Henry was his company's top IT specialist and rarely went on business trips. But because Sanford was their third largest customer, Henry boarded the first available Delta flight from AUS on Thursday. It took him about 6 hours to get everything sorted out. He had a reservation on a 6 a.m. flight back to Austin, which would allow him to get home a full 10 hours before the concert. The only problem was that by 3 a.m., there was already a foot of snow on the ground, and it continued to snow. His Delta app on his cell phone lit up with notifications of delays, and then, finally, cancellations. Henry was fully conscious, looking for options. Henry was well rewarded for his work and was worth every penny, but his boss would be furious if he chartered a private jet home. However, he had just saved his company several $1,000s more than it would have cost to rent, so he tried this option. By 5 in the morning, it became clear that no one would be flying anytime soon. The snowfall was expected to continue all day with temperatures near freezing. Some called it the storm of the decade. All Henry could think was, damn. Around 9 a.m., he dialed speed number 2 on Melanie's work phone. Her assistant Kim answered the second call and connected it. "Hi, honey. I'm so excited for the evening we'll be together. What time will you be home?" "Mel, have you seen the weather in Sioux Falls?" "No, Henry, I knew you were heading there, but I wasn't paying attention." "What's going on?" "Unfortunately, a lot of damn snow. 12 inches have fallen already and maybe another 10 today before it's over. All flights are canceled." "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I was so excited about tonight. I know I've been working a lot lately, and this was the perfect chance to start a romantic weekend together. Damn, sometimes I hate your job." "I'm upset too, Mel, but you know I only travel 4 or 5 times a year, and only when absolutely necessary. This was a major crisis with a major client. As you said, we haven't seen each other much in recent months, but that's you. You spend an insane amount of time at work, not me. If there's one thing my job does, it's that we can afford a pretty good life in Texas." "You're right, Henry. We've just been seeing each other less than usual lately. I know a lot of this is on me. I'm working hard to become a partner, and that means I need to put in the time. You're already in a place where you can decide your schedule most of the time and keep it within reason. I'm still a year or so away from being in control of my hours. I miss you, and I miss us. And I miss you, darling. Why don't you take your friend Sue and relax? The tickets are front row, and it'll be too much trouble trying to sell them. I can arrange for a car to pick you up and bring you home. Don't let my confusion spoil the enjoyment of a great show." Melanie was hesitant and talked about just selling tickets. She would have stayed home and watched the concert online. She could log into her Ticketmaster account and sell seats without issue. She went on and on about how she didn't want to go unless he was with her. Henry insisted, encouraging her to go and have fun. He reminded her that she had a new pair of Tecovas boots and that the stylish boots looked sexy on her. After several minutes of persuasion, she gave in. They both said, "I love you," and hung up. 5 minutes later, Melanie found her spare phone in the back compartment of her tote bag and dialed the first quick access number. This was her side of the conversation. "Hi, how's your day going?" "Well, maybe I have something to cheer you up. Henry just called and he's stuck in Sioux Falls, South Dakota." "Yes, he had to urgently fly there on business, and suddenly there was a huge snowfall. You're lucky, aren't you?" "Yes, luck loves you. How about we spend the evening together? I still have those 2 tickets on the Florida-Georgia line tonight, but the husband will be up north cooling off. Is Diana still visiting her parents in Memphis? Great. How about we enjoy the evening together? I have a new denim skirt and boots that I'd like to try on. I'll order an Uber to your house and we'll go from there. How's that sound?" "Yes, I'll order an Uber Black so we can have tinted windows." Giggle. "Yeah, let's plan a party after the concert. See you around 7, can't wait." Melanie worked hard and worked through lunch so she could leave the office at 4:30 p.m. She wanted to take a bath and relax for an hour before heading to the concert. Before leaving the office, she called her best friend Susan O'Connor. They met during Melanie's first year at the firm and became immediate friends. They were almost the same age and got married 2 weeks apart in 1 year. They had a lot in common. "Hey, Susie Q, I need a favor, honey." "What's wrong, Mel? Happy to help if I can." "If Henry ever asks you how our evening was at the Florida-Georgia line concert tonight, your answer will be great." "What the hell, Mel, are you still dating David?" Mel giggled. "Yeah, I just can't give it up." Sue didn't laugh. "Mel, Henry is an amazing man, and you make an amazing couple together. This is the point where you start thinking about kids and starting a family together. You're not in college anymore, sister. Why would you risk everything for sex?" Mel sighed. Her friend was loyal, but she was also a little more conservative in her views on loyalty. I know, Sue. Henry is a great guy, and I never intended to lose him. David is wild and fun. We are both happy in our marriages, but we just really have a sexual spark that rocks our worlds." "Mel, you really need to think a little deeper before you open your mouth. If you were happy in your marriage, you wouldn't be sleeping with your boss, and he wouldn't be sleeping with one of his employees if he was happy. Have you not understood part of your marriage vows? The renunciation of all the rest is clear enough." Mel is tired of her friend's lecture. "Sue, are you going to cover for me or not if Henry ever asks?" "I won't offer any information or bring up the subject at all. But if he asks me, I'll say I was with you. Where were we sitting?" "Front row, right in the middle. Thank you, Susie Q, you're the best. We're having a spa day next weekend, at my expense." So much like Henry to buy great tickets. Now you're using his gift to cheat on him with David, Sue thought to herself. What came out of her mouth was, "Okay, bye." Mel hurried home and began to prepare for the date. She had a couple of glasses of her favorite Pinot Grigio, shaved her legs in a bubble bath, and then got dressed. She wore a white lace bra so she could unbutton the top couple of buttons on her white blouse. The skirt ended about 6 inches above her knees, showing off her strong legs. Her boots were dark gray and matched her vest. It was a Christmas present from Henry. It was the first time she had worn them, but she was so excited that the irony escaped her. She looked in the mirror and was pleased with what she saw in the reflection. She thought she would attract the attention of several men in the evening, but she was only interested in one. She had another glass of wine after ordering an Uber. When he arrived, she mentioned a stop on the way to the concert. The driver was happy to help. More money in his pocket suited him just fine. The car pulled up to the gate of the condominium. Melanie gave him the entry code, and they drove 2 blocks and pulled over to the side of the road. Right on schedule, David Miller, Melanie's boss, rushed out of his condo and jumped into the back seat, greeting his companion with an energetic and passionate kiss. "God, you smell and look amazing, Mel. I think we should skip the concert and go straight to your house." Melanie welcomed his kiss, opening her mouth and accepting it with a purr. "Calm down, big boy. We'll have plenty of time later. It's going to be a great show." The Uber driver remained silent, but he noticed the engagement ring and diamond on her left hand as she kissed and caressed her lover. For her part, Mel never planned to cheat on her husband. They met on a blind date arranged by her best friend. The chemistry between them quickly developed. She was outgoing, friendly, and easy to make friends with. Henry was a little more reserved, but he had an inner strength that she liked. She never felt in his shadow, but his presence always made her feel safe. He was kind, but determined, warm by nature, and wise beyond his years. He went through college on an ROTC scholarship and spent 5 years in the Marines after graduation. This experience, combined with his personality, made him a person that others could always rely on. That quality was as attractive to Mel as his big 6'2", 190-pound good looks. Henry doubted Mel's affections from the very beginning. He never considered himself a big gimmick or anything special. The Corps taught him that his duty was to the people around him. You lead from the front line and are the last to retreat. This was drilled into him at OSU. This code left an impression that stayed with him after returning to civilian life. So being the object of a beautiful woman's attention was a bit confusing for him. The only time he ever felt out of place was when Mel would suddenly grab him and kiss him passionately, or stare at him across a crowded room with a look that could only be defined as, "I need you to figure out a way to have sex right now." As they grew closer, Henry's fears subsided, and Mel's confidence in us grew. They married after an 18-month courtship that included a 4-month engagement. Henry's military specialty in communications, as well as his natural aptitude, landed him a great job at his current company in Austin. By his 3rd year with the company, he headed his own department. In his 5th year, he became vice president of all IT development and customer support. Mel graduated from law school 9 months after their wedding and landed a solid entry-level position at a mid-sized Austin law firm specializing in oil and mineral rights. She was smart as a whip and attracted the attention of the firm's 3 partners, Connor, Sims, and Miller. And this is where the problems began. David Miller was a 43-year-old married man with 2 teenage children. His wife, Diana, was the principal of one of the local high schools. Mel liked her and always seemed like they were well-suited as a married couple. Much about her boss was a mystery to her. However, it was clear that working for David Miller was not easy. He worked a minimum of 55 hours a week as a senior partner, while his 2 colleagues barely worked 40. He expected his team to work somewhere in the region of 70 hours a week. Mel, in her 3rd year at the firm, had finally cut her work week down to a manageable 65 hours. The jerk seemed happy with her work and gave her better assignments. They started spending more time together during the day and after work, more time with the team, and more time just the 2 of us. Pretty soon, the time spent together far exceeded the time with the team. They began to communicate on more intimate topics and even shared casual touches. They were playing with fire. They both knew it. It was 6 months ago when the sparks grew into full flames. They won a big case that was expected to bring the practice about $2 million. David's share would be approximately $400,000, and Mel would receive a $45,000 bonus. The 6-person team gathered in David's office for a late-night celebration. The jerk was so pleased that he even opened a bottle of his 4 Roses, single-barrel bourbon for the occasion. An hour later, the party began to end. David asked Mel to stay a minute. This caused a couple of grins among the more attentive ones. David ushered the last person out, then quietly closed the door. He turned around as Mel began to unbutton her blouse, leaning on his desk. David walked across the room like a man possessed. He hugged her and pulled her to him in a passionate kiss. David wasn't as big or strong as Henry, but he was more persistent. He knew what he wanted, and he went after it. He'd wanted Mel ever since he first worked closely with her about 2 years ago. His passion had been building up for a long time, and now it burst out. His hand slid to her ass, which he squeezed tightly, causing her to moan into his mouth. Her arms wrapped around his neck as she returned his brazen hug. With one hand still holding her butt, his other hand began caressing her breasts. She pressed herself against his groping hand, completely surrendering to him. Within a minute or two, her blouse and skirt were gone. Mel was now trying to remove his belt and pants. David pulled away from their embrace, spun her around, and bent her over his desk. With 1 or 2 firm slaps to her ass, he let her know who was in charge. She couldn't resist. She wanted to give him all of herself. She happily met all his proposals, caught his desires, and tried to fulfill them instantly. "You're amazing, Mel," David finally said when he finished and hugged her. "I love hot and dirty talk, but I think you're incredible and hope this isn't a one-time thing." "No, David, I don't think it was a one-time thing. I feel a connection to you that I don't want to resist. We're both married, and we want to stay that way. But I hope you and I can have moments like this afternoon, from time to time." "I'm glad to hear all this, Mel. Yes, we both want to stay married, but I also want more moments like today." "Let me show you how much I want it," Mel replied as she dropped to her knees, ready for round two. That was 6 months ago, and now Mel and David walked into the concert arena holding hands. They hid their infidelity well, but were also discreet, meeting at least twice a month. Tonight, if they were worried about being seen, they didn't show it. They weren't overly affectionate with each other, but even a casual observer could tell that this was a date between two people who were attracted to each other. Back in Sioux Falls, a disappointed Henry decided to watch the concert live. "If I can't be with her, maybe I can see her when they show the crowd," he thought to himself. After the opening act, FGL took the stage with a bang, performing 4 fast and loud songs. There wasn't too much camera work aimed at the audience until the 5th song, which was finally slow. The love song Cruise was performed as cameras began capturing couples in the audience. Henry almost decided to take a quick break when the song started, but remembered that it was Mel's favorite song, so he stayed. 30 seconds later, his world collapsed and his marriage ended. The camera focused on the couple in the front row, where Henry bought the tickets. The man and woman hugged, slowly danced, and kissed deeply, apparently unaware that they were being shown on the big screen. There was no mistaking Mel in her new boots that Henry had given her last Christmas, and although he didn't know him very well, there was no doubt that David Miller was the man who was holding and passionately kissing his wife. Henry sank to the floor, completely speechless. The agony of betrayal hit him like a punch to the stomach. He was dazed, dizzy, and trying to breathe heavily. The camera panned to the other 3 couples, but then returned to Mel and David. This time, Mel broke the kiss, looked up and saw them on the screen. The look of absolute panic on her face was impossible to hide. She buried her face in David's chest, pulling his head down so he wouldn't look up. Henry sat on the floor, tears flowing from his eyes. He alternated between muttering questions like, "Why, Mel?" to pure anger, "Damn you, Mel. And of course, I'm going to beat you up, David Miller." As he began to come to his senses, he realized he had to act and act quickly. He learned in the Corps that if you sit back and do nothing, you will die. If you move and take on the fight, you have a chance. He began to act. Henry called his good friend and lawyer, Michael Lipscomb. Michael was a little surprised by the call at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night, but even more surprised to hear the topic of the conversation. He told Henry how sorry he was and asked several times if Henry was sure it was Mel. Once he was sure, he told Henry to hang up but accept the call that would come to him within the next 5 minutes. 3 minutes later, the phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but it was a 512 Austin area code. "Hello, this is Henry Can." "Hello, Mr. Can. This is Erica Hamilton, a lawyer and good friend of Michael." "Hello, Mrs. Hamilton. Thank you for calling me." "Call me Erica, and I'll call you Henry," Erica replied. Henry was about to say something, but she continued. "Sorry for my bluntness, Henry, but we don't have much time. Your wife is at a concert with another man, and you saw them on live television in an intimate setting, right?" "Yes." "Okay. Where were they sitting and what were they wearing as far as you can tell?" Henry answered as quickly and accurately as possible. "When we hang up, send me the latest and greatest photo of your wife. I have a private investigator on the way to the concert. He will be there in 10 minutes and will follow them all night and the rest of the weekend if necessary. We need to collect as much evidence as possible, as quickly as possible." "Okay, thank you." "Henry, can you come up with an excuse to stay in Sioux Falls for a couple of days? I want our evidence to be strong, and one night at a concert will not provide that. If you can remain blocked by snow or do some work for your client, We'll have a better chance of catching them red-handed. Sorry for my frank tone. Yes, I can arrange that, Henry replied. Great, Henry. Send me the photo ASAP and hang in there. I'll call you back no later than noon tomorrow with an update. Call your wife at a reasonable time tomorrow morning and let her know that your detention will last until at least Monday evening. I'm guessing your employer will not object. Yes, I'm a senior vice president, so my schedule is flexible. There's still some work I could do here with a client on Monday. Great. I need to run. We'll talk tomorrow. Henry was grateful for the conversation and quick action. His head was still spinning, and he had no idea what the outcome would be. But it was clear that this woman knew her stuff. He didn't get much sleep that night, and for the record, he never listened to FGL again. By 5:30 a.m., Henry had stopped trying to sleep. He stood up and looked outside. The snowfall became lighter, but still fell. He turned on the local station. 22 inches of snow have fallen in the last 36 hours, quite a record for Sioux Falls. It's clear that nothing much will move until later in the day or even the next. Henry started taking notes. Treason was unacceptable to him. Whether it was the first time or the 100th time, it didn't matter. Trust broken in a close relationship was something he could not tolerate. As if cheating wasn't bad enough, the contempt they both showed him was beyond acceptable. They slowly danced and kissed in a very public setting in his town. Even if only one or two acquaintances saw them, rumors would spread. Have you heard that Melanie Can is cheating on her husband with her boss? No, he wasn't going to put up with such nonsense. He has reconsidered his actions as a husband over the past 5 years. He was always faithful, not that women knocked at his door. He rarely looked at other women. He was madly in love with Mel, and that meant he was absolutely faithful to her. They fought sometimes, but he was a good husband to her. Caring, friendly, protective, but always respecting her as an equal partner. No, he didn't deserve such contempt. He compiled a table of assets and liabilities. He made a very short list of people he needed to call, including his boss, his father, and 2 friends from the Marine Corps. He made a list of next steps based on his conversation with Erica. It was only 7 a.m., so he put on his tracksuit and went to the hotel fitness room, where he worked out hard until 9. After a shower and breakfast, he picked up his phone. There were 2 text messages from Mel asking how he was and saying how much she missed him. She mentioned that the concert was good, and Sue joined her. Another disrespect. He decided to check something. Perhaps he should have waited and discussed it with his lawyer, but he was a Marine after all. Inaction in a crisis seemed like a bad idea to him. The phone rang twice before it was picked up. "Hey, Henry," Sue said. "I heard you're stuck in Sioux Falls. I saw the weather map. It looks terrible." "Hey, Sue. Yeah, it's a real snowstorm here. Texas hasn't had this much snow in 100 years, let alone a day or two. I'll be glad to come home." "How can I help you, Henry?" Sue sounded nervous. "Listen, Sue, I was just wondering, how did you like the concert last night? I thought the opening song, 'This Is How We Roll,' was cool. I watched it live from my hotel room." "Yes, Henry, it was a great show. I know Mel had fun, but she really missed you." "Thank you for your words, Sue. Can I ask you one more quick question before I let you go?" "Certainly. I know you're a big FGL fan, since you might have confused 'This Is How We Roll' with 'Up Down,' which was actually the opening song from last night. How is that possible, Sue?" There was silence on the other end of the line, so Henry continued. "Sue, I know you're Mel's friend, but I considered you a friend too, along with Jim. But now it seems you've chosen a side and are willing to give up our friendship so she can have fun with her boss. You won't tell me that I did to you and Jim to deserve such disrespect. Your betrayal hurts me deeply." A lump formed in Sue's throat, and tears gathered in her eyes. It was beginning to dawn on her that she had made poor choices in the name of friendship. No friend would ever ask someone they value to help them be dishonest and hurt others. "I'm so sorry, Henry," she replied, barely audible. "How long has this been going on, Sue? How long has David Miller been entertaining my wife?" "About 6 months, Henry." Henry had been preparing for something like this, but hearing it for the first time was a blow. He had to fight to maintain his composure. "Sue, does Jim know that you're lying for Mel and helping her break her marriage vows by cheating on me?" Sue sobbed. "Oh no, Henry. Jim doesn't know anything about this. He would be terribly upset and completely ashamed of my role in this." "Okay, Sue. I won't tell Jim about your role just yet. Everything will come out soon anyway, and I'm sure he'll have questions that you'll have to answer. Jim is a good man, so my advice to you is, be honest when the time comes. In the meantime, if I find out that you have relayed the word to Mel about this conversation, I will call Jim myself to make sure he understands the role you played in despising me and destroying our marriage." Sue was crying now. "No, Henry. I won't tell Mel anything. I won't even answer texts or calls over the weekend. I'll find a way to avoid talking to her. I'm so sorry and ashamed, Henry." Henry hung up without saying goodbye. From that side of the conversation, Sue began to realize the depth of her stupidity in the name of friendship. She knew she would have to talk to Jim sooner or later. Probably sooner will be better. Henry then called Mel. She sounded sleepy, but played the role of the loving wife to perfection. She complained a lot when she learned that he would not return until Monday evening. She and Sue had fun, but it wasn't the same without him. She had few plans for the day. She was going to do a few things and clean the house a little. Nothing special. She would leave something special for when her husband returned, she promised. She ended the conversation with the usual, "I love you." Henry replied, "Goodbye." She thought it was strange, but then David caressed her breasts in a way that drove her crazy, so she didn't think much of it. At 11:58 a.m., Erica called. She gave a brief update and then said she would call back around 7 p.m. with a full report. She called at exactly 19:00. The gist was this. The private investigator was very, very good. He went to the concert and took more photos. Mel was intimidated by the cameras for a while, but by the end of the concert, they were hugging and kissing again. They returned to Henry and Mel's house. The private investigator anticipated this and installed recording equipment in several rooms. They spent the night actively having sex in the bedroom. Later in the kitchen, they had a very casual but frank conversation about their relationship, starting from when it started. They freely mentioned several sexual adventures within the office. They also discussed how to continue to keep it a secret. They went to lunch and then returned to Can's bedroom for the afternoon and evening. The private detective would continue to monitor and record, but Erica assumed that they would not find anything new. Then she wanted to know what was on Henry's mind. He thought and took notes all day. He outlined his thoughts to his lawyer. "She has despised me publicly and privately for 6 months. The marriage is over," he began. "She must feel the humiliation she brought upon me in front of her friends and family. The truth about her actions must be revealed. There is no reason to minimize or exaggerate. The facts speak for themselves, but no irreconcilable differences. I want her to be served with a claim at work as soon as possible. I want his wife to know when I'm serving Mel, and maybe she can coordinate and serve the claim to the asshole at the same time. I want his wife to know everything we had about him. I hope and pray that she gets every last penny out of him in the divorce. I also hope that his partners have more morals than him and force him to leave the practice. Perhaps if we threaten to sue a firm because they had sex in the office multiple times, we can motivate them in that direction. I don't want to stay in the house. I need to sell it. Too many memories. Honestly, I don't even know if I'll stay in Texas. However, I don't want her to stay there. Hopefully, we can just split the sale of 50-50. I also want to protect all my assets as best as possible. I don't mind using my money to pay off cars or other small debts, but I definitely don't want her getting child support from me." Erica asked several clarifying questions. She told Henry that it was likely, given his ability to make good money, that she would receive some alimony. However, if the law firm has a code of ethics, they can clearly show that her infidelity caused the marriage to end. This might help. Henry remained in Sioux Falls or returned to Austin undercover until Tuesday afternoon. Mel was due to be served with the claim in the middle of the day. Erica tried to find Ms. Miller before this time to see if she wanted to join in on the fun. Henry noticed that Mel no longer called him on Saturday or Sunday evenings. She and the idiot must have been having a great time. He knew he would have to call her, otherwise she might suspect something was wrong. He called around 9 o'clock in the evening. "Hey, I was just thinking about you and realized that we haven't talked since yesterday. I hope you're still going to come home tomorrow. I miss you so much. I miss you so much." "Sorry, Mel, but it will be Tuesday. I have a flight through O'Hare that will get me home around 3 o'clock in the afternoon so we can plan dinner together." "Okay," she replied, seeming disappointed. "But the next time I see James, I'll tell him no more winter trips. He ruined the perfect weekend we were supposed to have together." "Tell him when you see him," Henry said, almost laughing at the thought. Inside, he thought, "What a cold, angry bitch you have become, Mel." They talked some more, and before hanging up, Mel said, "Henry, I love you so much. You know that, right? You know how much I love you." "Yes, Mel," Henry replied, holding back more tears. "I know exactly how much you love me." And with that, he hung up. He simply could not afford to let her humiliate him, even if she realized that he knew about her adventures. "She'll never humiliate me again," he thought, as he dialed his boss, James, to keep him updated. Henry was sitting at the kitchen table on Tuesday at precisely 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He wasn't sure when Mel would return home. He knew from Erica everything went according to plan. She should have been served with a claim between 2 and 4. While they briefly discussed next steps, Henry's phone was blowing up with texts and calls from Mel. In order, the texts read, "What the hell? How dare you humiliate me at my workplace? Answer me. You better be home when I get there. I will never forgive you for this." Henry saw action only twice. His work in communications supported the war effort, but every Marine is trained to be a marksman, and twice in Iraq, he found himself in a firefight. None lasted long, and his captain, who never praised anyone, took the young first lieutenant aside and told him he had done well for a rookie. Henry's experience in combat helped him remain calm and determined in the face of the upcoming battle in his kitchen. "Henry, Henry, where the hell are you?" Mel screamed as she entered through the side door from the driveway. Henry sat silently at the table. Mel walked around the corner with the file in her hands and threw it onto the table with force. "You son of a bitch. You filed for divorce from me in my office? How could you do this? How could you be so cruel? Do you understand how humiliating it was?" Her tone then softened a little. "Why, Henry? Why did you file for divorce? We love each other. We have a great marriage and a great future ahead of us. What are you thinking about? Talk to me." Henry remained calm. He realized that this was the first time he had seen Mel since the terrible discovery on Friday night. Her eyes looked empty and puffy. She was excited and nervous. He noticed that she had opened a divorce filing, but did not appear to have reviewed the file. "Sit down, Mel, and we'll discuss this." "Don't tell me what to do. Who are you? Are you seeing someone on the side?" She loomed over him. "Enough," Henry thought to himself. He stood up and took a dominant position over her. Looking down at her with a cold but serious expression on his face, he said again in a voice that demanded attention, "Sit down, Mel. Now." She sat down. "Mel, did you even look at the file attached to the divorce petition?" She shook her head from side to side, but did not reach out for the file. "Well, let's see what caused my world to come crashing down around me last Friday night. First of all, here's a photo of you and David the idiot at the concert. No, not Sue, like you lied to me, but your boss. These are the hugs and passionate kisses you enjoyed." Mel moved away from the table as if the photograph were a poisonous snake ready to bite. "David is not—" "Shh. Quiet, Mel. It's my turn to talk. You'll get your chance. Here's the flash drive. I'm not going to put it in and turn it on. You can do that on your laptop later. But this is a recording of you and the idiot having sex in our bed in Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. Also included are conversations taking place right here at this table, in our house between you and the idiot, about past sexual adventures and how to continue to keep me and Mrs. Diana Miller in the dark. By the way, I'm not sure your office is next to the idiot's office, so you may not have noticed that Mrs. Miller also filed a divorce suit against him today. I don't know how he's going to explain getting into bed with a coworker for the third time to my children, but that's not my problem anymore. You knew you were number 3, right? Melanie winced at this revelation. Obviously, she considered herself special, the only one he was with outside of marriage. It seems the idiot was also a great liar, but after all, he was a lawyer. What else did she expect? Okay, anyway, there are more pages here detailing your betrayals in the best way Sue can remember. She seemed to realize that covering your ass was about to cost her her own marriage, so she decided to give in and tell everything. In other words, she threw you under the bus. All the nights she lied and said she was with you. Even the bachelorette party last November was a ruse, so you and the asshole could sneak off to South Padre. By the way, I wouldn't advise you to call Sue soon. Jim was very clear. If she talks to you without him present, the marriage is over. Finally, you have a copy of the civil lawsuit against your law firm. Having sex with a jerk in our marital bed does not violate any company rules. However, his desk, the couch in his office are all part of the office, so here we have a case. Our lawyer thinks we have a good chance of success. So, my dear cheating wife, this is why I am filing for divorce. You have destroyed my heart in ways I can't even put into words. I was so upset last week when I had to fly to Sioux Falls because I was excited to spend time with the only woman I've ever loved. The only woman I've ever wanted to love. My wife, the person I hoped to start a family with. Then, as I watched the concert live, hoping to see a girl singing and dancing, making the best of our separation from her faithful friend Sue, I almost died seeing her in the arms of another man. My soul was destroyed in an instant. I think I'm a big enough person to handle betrayal, Mel, even serious betrayal. People aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. Forgiveness should always be a part of a marriage. But you didn't just betray me, you despised me. You deliberately humiliated me. Me in front of everyone. I can't do this, I won't tolerate it. I won't be married to you, Mel, for a minute longer than it takes for the divorce to be finalized. I'm not going to make it easy for you. I'm going to keep it as you can get more of your money. Your family and friends will know what you did. I won't hide the truth from them for someone who spat in my face with their actions. Now you're alone. Maybe this is what you always wanted. That's it. I'm done. Speak if you want. Mel tried to hold back her tears, but she was having trouble. She was a strong and proud woman, but this man she claimed to love, whom she had betrayed so deeply, had just destroyed her by simply telling the truth. He pointed out the depth of her terrible actions and the consequences. She wanted to hate him, blame him. She desperately wanted to avoid clearly admitting her guilt, but there was no way to avoid the truth of who she was. Did you tell my parents? No. I'll leave it to you. I've talked to my people, my boss, and a couple of friends from the Corps. With the exception of my lawyer and our company's legal counsel, Michael, I haven't talked to anyone. But let me be clear. If you try to misrepresent the truth or cover up my actions, I will give them everything, including the contents of the flash drive. I can't tell my parents everything. It would kill them to find out about all this. You can't hate me that much, Henry. Mel, you didn't care one bit about my feelings or how your choices ruined my heart. You acted hateful towards me for at least 6 months, and that's with no other lovers before the asshole. Don't play the victim here. I'll give you a week to tell them, and then I'll call myself. They need to be clear about what happened, or they'll get a copy of everything. Henry, I swear there was no one else. David was the first and only. Of course, Mel. And you were with Sue at the concert last Friday. You and the idiot didn't have sex in our marital bed all weekend while you were telling me how much you loved me. I'm guessing every time you open your mouth, you're lying. I doubt you even know how to tell the truth at this point. Henry, I didn't want this to happen. I wasn't looking for this. I got caught up in the moment when we won the Dutton case. As soon as we started, I was going to stop, but I just didn't. I don't know why. Really, Mel, you don't know why? Henry flipped through the file until he found the page he was looking for. I'm sorry. I should have realized from your conversations how much you wanted to be faithful to me. Here's a quote from when you both were lying in our marriage bed after sex. David, I just can't get enough of you. We have to be very careful. If Diana or Henry ever find out, we'll have to end this, and I don't want this to ever end. Yes, Mel, you seem to be so conflicted about your behavior. Not having sex, but lying in the arms of another man in our bed, calling your actions love-making, admitting that you never want to stop. You're completely lost connection to reality, Mel. Henry's words began to sink in. Mel sank into her chair for a moment or two without saying a word. Finally, she spoke. I have no excuses, Henry. I'm a grown woman, and I made my choices. I thought I could hide it from you. I thought I could play this game, and if you didn't find out, it would be harmless. I knew. That David was just a flirt. I knew we would never love each other even if I used those words. I never felt the same way for him as I do for you. But I thoughtlessly betrayed you and your love for me. Mel paused for a moment to blow her nose and dry her eyes. She looked across the table at Henry and immediately noticed two things. His wedding ring lay on the table, and his eyes showed that he was lost to her without any hope of redemption. He looked at her with the same contempt with which she addressed him. Her safe little world of a loving husband was shattered. Henry, I don't know what to do or where to go. I can't leave the house until the divorce is over. It would be an admission that it's over, and it would be financial suicide. I'm guessing you won't want to leave either. Can we agree to stay here for now? I need time to think and determine next steps. I can't promise that I won't fight for a divorce. Right now, I just want to be with you forever. I can't imagine life without you. I will live in one of the guest rooms and avoid all but absolutely necessary contact between roommates. I will respect your space. Mel, I can't tell you what to do, what to think, or where to go. Erica, my lawyer, told me not to leave the house until the divorce is officially finalized, and she told me that you will feel the same way. You will remain in charge. Bedroom tonight. I refuse to sleep on the mattress you and the idiot had sex on. Tomorrow I'll give it to the Salvation Army and a new one will be delivered. This will be my bed that you will never sleep in. Thank you for your understanding, Henry. I would fight for the right to stay if I had to. It's my only choice legally. But I appreciate you meeting me halfway. I'll start moving my things tomorrow while you're at work. Mel walked over to hug Henry. He quickly moved away from her. Damn you, Mel. Don't ever try to touch me again. All I can do to be in the same room with you and remain calm is destroy us. You destroyed my heart. You destroyed us. You will not have my comfort now or ever for doing such a disgusting thing. You made your choice alone. You will live with him alone. I will never fully get over your betrayal, Mel, but I will work as hard as I can to force you out of your life as soon as possible, and this process has already begun. Mel collapsed back into her chair, laid her head on the table, and began to cry. Mel fought her divorce tooth and nail. Silently, she hoped that Henry would relent and stay. She also had to fight to retain any vestige of self-respect. Many of her friends broke ties with her when they found out what she did to Henry. Mel asked the court to order counseling, showing that she was already in therapy, proving that she had absolutely no connection to David Miller, etc. However, representing yourself in court is never a good idea. But Mel was worried about legal fees, so she tried to do it herself. She delayed the process for a while, but was never able to stop it. Even Mel's parents begged her to let Henry go. They were shocked by her actions and sided with Henry, trying to maintain some kind of relationship with their daughter. The divorce was approved after 7 months. The house and savings were divided in half, but Henry did not have to pay child support. Miracles happen. Melanie left Connor, Sims, and Miller to work for a small firm in San Antonio. The day she left, she walked out the front door and turned around to say goodbye to Henry. He stood at the window, looking at her, but did not wave back. He just stood there, watching her leave his life forever. David Miller began spending his evenings at a seedy bar called the Oilers, located in the wrong part of town. One night, as he was leaving, a man approached him in the parking lot. He looked into Henry Cann's eyes. There were no CCTV cameras in the area. Henry said, "Hey, dude," and then punched him in the face with a crushing fist. His nose and jaw were broken. Henry leaned over him. "I wanted you to know who did this to you, David. I wanted you to look me in the eyes and see this coming. So if you report it, there are 12 retired Marines sitting in a bar in downtown Austin right now, most of them decked out in combat vests, who will swear I was with them all evening. If for some reason I get arrested and charged with assaulting you, one or two of them will come back and finish what I started. No charges were ever brought. About a year after the divorce, Henry was leaving a cafe in downtown Austin when he looked up and saw a beautiful woman about his age enter. He held the door open for her as she entered. "Thank you, good sir," she said. "It's good to see some cowboys still have manners." "You're welcome, ma'am," Henry replied, and headed to his car. He was about to enter when he thought to himself, "What the hell?" and turned around, heading back inside. She was sitting facing the door and immediately looked up when he returned. He walked straight up to her table, extended his hand and said, "Sorry, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Henry." She took his hand in greeting. "Nice to meet you, Henry. I'm Lori. Why don't you pull up a chair? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one."